So we have discussed now Northwestern Pines 2018 paper. Structured essay, the first two questions we have done. So we're going to discuss the rest today. I'll share the screen. So this paper we have done structured essay. Question number 1 and 2 we have discussed. So today we have to start question number 3 onwards. Question number 3 onwards. Right? Question number 3. Chemistry. Third question. Second question, biology. So question number 3. That is chemistry. Given below is a formation of compound by binding two. So by binding two atoms. Right. Let's see how to answer this. Okay, you can see the screen now. Question number 3. Mention X and Y. So you have to identify the elements X and Y compound binding two atoms. Actually, there are 3 atoms combined, but 2 elements. X one element, Y is the other element. And how to write the valencies of X and Y. And state the type of bond formed above. So when you are given most of the questions in the exam, they don't give the real symbol. They don't give the real symbol. And you have to decide from the configuration or from the group or the period given, you should know the symbol. You should know the symbol given. So you should be able to identify that. Now you can see what is the configuration. The best thing, if you know the configuration of X, you can tell the element X. That's the first thing. If you want, you can write that. Those who have not done this, please write. If configuration of X is known, then can identify the real symbol of X. Okay, let me explain. You can write the configuration of 2, 6. What the configuration of X 2, 6. 2, 6. All right. I'll use this green background to explain. Okay, let's see how to get X and Y easily. Okay. Right. Now X, you can write the configuration of X 2, 6. That means atomic number will be 2, 6. Atomic number will be 8. So I'll write this atomic number of X. Therefore, what is the real symbol? Which one is 8? Oxygen. So what is the atomic number 8? Oxygen. So I'll write here within bracket oxygen. X is oxygen. So answer for the first one, X equal oxygen. Right? X equal oxygen. Therefore, X equal oxygen. How do you know? What is the first step? Write the configuration. Write the configuration by looking at the number of dots in the diagram. Dot diagram 2, 6. The first shell 2 electron, next one 6 electron. That means 2, 6 means total electrons 8. If there are 8 electrons total, then you can easily find the configuration and atomic number, and then you can decide the element oxygen. Then Y configuration is just 1. Configuration of Y is 1. That means atomic number is 1. So Y will be what? Hydrogen. Hydrogen. Actually, they have formed the water molecule. They have formed the water molecule, the dot diagram, dot and cross diagram of water molecule. Dot and cross diagram of water molecule. But actually, they have given the last one dot and cross here. But in the first two diagrams, they have given only dots. So, but anyway, it's we assume that it's a dot and cross diagram. So, what is actually X2? What is the formula if you write here? It is X Y2O, Y2X. What is the real formula here? When you combine, they have given a finally, you can see here Y2X. That means, in other words, what? It's H2O. Y2X means what? H2O. Y is hydrogen, X is oxygen. So that means water molecule, dot and cross diagram they have given here. So that is how you can easily find it. Right. That is number 1. Please raise the hand those who have identified X and Y correctly and got this formula. Then the rest is easy. Please raise the hand. Those who identified the element X and Y correctly. Right. Very good. Very good. Then you can easily go for the rest. Right. Then let's see the next part. Write the valencies of X and Y. Valencies of X and Y. So valency depends on the outermost electron. By looking at the formula, you can decide the valency. Valency of oxygen will be 2. That means X valency will be 2. Valency equal to. How do you know? There are 6 valence electrons. In X, there are 6 valence electrons. Out of the 6 valence electron in X, 2 electrons are shared. You can see out of 6 electrons, only 2 electrons get shared with Y. Look at the last diagram. Dot and cross. Only 2 electrons shared. Number of electrons shared by X will be 2. That's why the valency of X will be 2. What is the valency of Y? Y valency is equal to. Y the valency is equal to 1. Why? Because it has shared only 1 electron. Those who got this difficult, please write how come valency 2 here? Because X has shared 2 electrons. What is valency? Number of electrons shared, gained or given out by an atom. Number of electrons gained, given out or shared by an atom is known as its valency. Right. So that is how you get the answer for the part 1 and part 2. Part 1, X is oxygen, or you can write capital O. Y is hydrogen, or you can write capital H, 2 marks, and write the valencies of X and Y. Valency of X equal 2, valency of Y equal 1. Right. Then let's move on to the next part. I'll erase this. Part 3, let's see what they ask. Part 3, they ask, state the type of bond which form above. So there are 2 types of bond you have learned now, covalent bond and ionic bond. So when it form Y to X, or it's same as H2O. So both are non-metals, hydrogen also non-metal. Oxygen also non-metal. Between non-metals, mostly what type of bond is formed? Between non-metal, the bond form is ionic bond. What is the type of bond, nature of bond form between non-metals? Ionic bond. So therefore this bond will be ionic bond. Answer will be the type of bond will, covalent bond, not ionic. Between non-metals, covalent bond is formed. Covalent bond. That's how you get the answer easily. Covalent bond. Now remember, I'll go short note for this also. And the other, how it's become covalent, because those electrons, like the valence electrons, shared between those atoms. Valence electrons shared between those atoms. So if you draw the diagram here, it's like this. oxygen at the center, then two hydrogen here. So here you have two electrons. Here you have two electrons. Then here you have two lone pairs. That's how you get this. Okay. So that is the correct answer. Type of bond, covalent bond. If you want, I'll give a summary here. Between metal and non-metal is ionic. What is the, okay, if you want to write here summary here. Between metal plus non-metal, what is the type of bond form? Ionic. Ionic bond is formed. Ionic bond. You can copy down this in a short notebook. Between, okay, I can give a lot of example. Example, sodium and chlorine. Sodium chloride, ionic bond and ionic compound, ionic lattice. That is number one. You can take any other, calcium plus chlorine, calcium chloride, potassium plus chlorine, potassium chloride, magnesium plus chlorine, magnesium chloride. Or you can take any metal and non-metal, even sodium and hydrogen, sodium hydride, magnesium plus hydrogen, magnesium hydride, or sodium and oxygen, sodium oxide, potassium plus oxygen, potassium oxide, metal, non-metal, metal, non-metal, ionic bonds, ionic compound. Number two, if you combine two non-metals, non-metal, non-metal. If you combine two non-metals, non-metal and non-metal combine mostly form, not always, not always, mostly in your syllabus, this is valid. Very rarely you get exceptions. If two non-metals combine, you get covalent bond, covalent bond, covalent bond. So non-metal, I'll say hydrogen, and here hydrogen, then you get covalent bond HH, HH, the covalent bond. So you get H2, H2. That means homoatomic molecule. So in H2, there's covalent bond. When non-metal, or else you can write hydrogen and chlorine, HCl, hydrochloric acid. That is heteroatomic. That is covalent bond. This is the summary. So this, therefore, when you are given a formula or name of a compound, how to check whether easily whether it's ionic or covalent? By looking at the formula, you can decide easily. By looking at the formula, you can decide it easily. Because ionic compound mostly contain at least one metal. Copper sulfate, copper is a metal, therefore copper sulfate is ionic. If you take potassium permanganate, both potassium and manganese metals, therefore potassium manganate is ionic. Or sodium carbonate, sodium is a metal, sodium carbonate is ionic compound. There can be so many non-metals. If you take calcium carbonate, ionic compound, why calcium is a metal. If there's a metal in it, it is ionic. With there can be so many non-metals. If there's at least one metal in it, if there's at least one metal in it, it is ionic. Then the other most important thing, if all are non-metals, mostly it's covalent. I'll tell one example. Okay, if you take glucose, right? If you take glucose, glucose is covalent, right? Why? Glucose C6H12O6. Are there any metals in it? No. Therefore, it's covalent. If you take sucrose, brown or white sugar that you eat, C12H22O11. What is this? Sucrose. Sugar in the kitchen, sucrose. This is covalent. Sucrose is covalent. Why? Carbon is non-metal, hydrogen is non-metal, oxygen also non-metal. Even though there are 22 hydrogen atoms, all are non-metal. All the atoms here non-metal. All the elements are non-metals. Glucose, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, they all non-metal. Right? So therefore, even if you take this carbohydrate, protein, lipids, they all contain only non-metals. No? So therefore, they are covalent macromolecules like polymers. Okay, if you take kind of third one, that is exception, I mean extra knowledge. If two metals combine, metal combination will give rise to an alloy, Mr. Loha. Metal will be, say, I'll take zinc, right? And the other metal I'll take copper. What is the alloy? Brass. Brass will be the alloy, brass. Is that clear? This is how you get it. But under new syllabus, we have introduced to the new syllabus curriculum. Remember 2023 grade 10 new syllabus. So this syllabus only until 2022. After next year, this syllabus is going to change completely, right? Completely. Okay. Then next one. Okay. Did you all finish copying down? Anyone still copying down? Shall I erase this? Shall I erase this? Remember, this is not given in your textbook. This is a short method. Like you can copy down this in your short notebook. Okay. I'll erase this. So let's move on to the next part. That's how you can decide whether compound is covalent or ionic. Right. Then next one. Next part. Next one. Part 4. Part 4. Draw the Lewis structure of the above compound. Draw the Lewis structure of the above compound. Write the formula for compound with covalent double bond. Okay. Now let's see how to draw the Lewis structure of this compound. Look at the screen, everyone. Lewis structure. What is the compound now? We have identified. Okay. Remember in the exam now it is Y2X. It is Y2X. Or else it's H2O. Y is hydrogen, H2O. Now, when you're going to draw the Lewis structure, the least occupied atom, what is the least occupied atom? Oxygen. That will come to the center. That will come to the center. Hydrogen has only one electron. Hydrogen has only one electron. My advice, when you are given, if you are asked to draw the Lewis structure or Rutan course diagram, the best thing you should try the configuration. Hydrogen 1, oxygen 2, 4. Why? Sorry, 2, 6. Why 2, 6? Atomic number 8. Atomic number 8. Therefore, there are 8 electrons. First energy level 2 electrons. Second energy level 6 electrons. When you draw now, in the middle, you put the least occupied one is in H2O, oxygen. So then hydrogen will never become, if you want to write this in a short notebook, hydrogen will never become the central atom in a molecule. Hydrogen will never become the central atom in a molecule. Hydrogen always become the terminal atom because hydrogen cannot form multiple bonds. Maximum number of bonds that can be formed by hydrogen 1. Why? It has just one electron. Number of bonds that can be formed by an atom depends on the valence electrons. If you want, can copy down this even. Again, I'll repeat. Number of chemical bonds formed by an atom depends on its valency. Valency means what? Number of unpaired electrons in the outermost shell. Outermost shell is also known as valence shell. Electrons in the valence shell decide valency. If valency 1, can form only one bond. If maximum valency 2, can form maximum 2 bonds like that. Now hydrogen become the terminal atom. So I'll put hydrogen in the terminal, and here this side also I put hydrogen. Then in the Lewis structure, bonding pair we represent using a small line or dash like this. Now how does this bond is formed? One from oxygen, one from hydrogen. Then the remaining out of 6 electron out. Okay, I'll draw this on this one. Go on for the bond here. Bond. Okay, so each hydrogen, 1 electron go on for the bond. Out of these 6 electrons, 2 electrons for the bonds. 2 electrons for making the bonds. 2 electrons for bond formation. 2 electrons for bond formation. Bond formation. Bond formation. Okay. Please write it. Then, I mean, logically, you have to decide this. 2 electrons are involved for forming the bond formation. Out of 6 electrons, 2 electrons go on for the bonds. How many more electrons left? 2 electrons, so 4 electrons. 4 electrons left. 4 electrons left as what? Lone pairs. 4 electrons become 2 lone pairs. 2 lone pairs or 2 non-bonding pairs. From 4 electrons, how many pairs can you make? 2 pairs. So those 2 pairs you have to represent like this. Understood? Like this. You can put a pair of dots here, pair of dots like this. This is the Lewis structure of what? Water molecule. This is the Lewis structure of water molecule. This is the answer. If you want to convert this into the dot diagram, only thing, instead of the small dash between the atoms, you put two dots. Then it becomes the bonding pair. Okay. If you want, can put an arrow toward this. This is called what? This pair is known as lone pair. Sometimes we call it non-bonding pair. Lone pair is also known as what pair? Non-bonding pair. Non-bonding pair. Non-bonding pair. Non-bonding pair. Is that clear? So here the bonding electron, the dash represents the covalent bond. But if you want, you can draw the same thing. If someone has done like this also, this is accepted. X is oxygen, X is in the middle, and then you write the Y and Y, these two corners. Then you put dash like this, and then you put pairs of electron like this. So no need to draw like a Venn diagram when you draw the Lewis structure. Lewis structure should consist only dash and electron pairs, couples of dots and dashes only. No single electrons, no unmarried people. All are couples. What are the two types of couples? Okay, did you all finish copying down? Anyone still copying down? Please raise the hand. The answer is inside this box. You have to draw either the using real symbol or H2O or X, Y2 or Y2X. You have to draw. Right? Okay, when you're done, you please lower your hand. Now, what do I now in your short notebook you can write Lewis structure can have only bonding pairs and non-bonding pairs. Right? There can't be any singly occupied electrons in any Lewis structure. Any Lewis structure should not contain. Okay, can you write a small heading? I'll go a short note for this in your okay, in your short notebook. Paper class, you have to maintain a short notebook. I'll go a small note summary, like you will not get this in the textbook, right? About Lewis structures. About Lewis structures, I'll go a small short note. Lewis structures. These are the rules. Lewis structure valid only for what? Valid only for covalent compounds, covalent molecules. If you want to write within bracket, not for ionic, not for ionic. This is very, very important. If you get a question in the oral paper, even in term test paper, draw the Lewis structure of sodium chloride. You can demand free mark. Why? Lewis theory, if you can search in the internet, Lewis theory. Actually, Lewis is name of a scientist, the person who introduced this theory, Lewis theory. According to the Lewis theory, he has introduced the Lewis theory to explain the bonding in covalent compounds, valid only for covalent molecules, not for ionic. Very important. Number two, can contain only pairs, can contain only pairs. That means what? Bonding pairs and bonding pairs. Bonding pair can contain only bonding pairs and non-bonding pairs. Pairs important, non-bonding pairs. Non-bonding pairs are also called what? Lone pairs, non-bonding pairs. Because this note is not given in our textbook. This is like a informal method of remembering this easily. Can contain only bonding pairs and non-bonding pairs. What within best right? Should not no single electrons in the Lewis structure. Should not contain no single electrons, no unmarried people, no single electrons, or no single, how to tell this, no unpaired electrons. All are pairs, no unpaired. I'll write this, no unpaired electrons in Lewis structure. All are paired, no unpaired electrons. Unpaired electrons are present only in the atom. After the bond formation, there can't be any unpaired electrons. Example, imagine a student write H2O by putting only one electron here. That is completely wrong. One electron can't. Or if you draw HCl, you put just here two pairs, here two pairs, here one electron. That is wrong. Unmarried people, they all these should be couples, right? All these, okay. So no unpaired electrons. That's very, very important. No unpaired electrons in the Lewis structure. Valid only for. So what are the two types of pairs? bonding pairs and non-bonding pairs. So bonding pairs using what? Dash. Bonding pairs represented by a dash. Bonding pairs contain how many electrons? Bonding pairs contain 2 electrons. Use a dash or a small line. Dash or line between the atoms. Between atoms. Dash or line between atoms. Always bonding pair should be between atoms. I'll write like this. Bonding pairs should be always between atoms. Bonding pairs between atoms. Between, not isolated atoms. Between the atoms. And non-bonding pairs are also called lone pairs. Non-bonding pairs should be on individual atoms, so isolated atoms. Non-bonding pairs between on individual atoms, on individual or isolated atoms, on individual atoms. Individual atoms, they are occupied not between the atoms, on individual atoms. Non-bonding pairs. So this is very, very important. If you can search in the Google rules when drawing the Lewis structure, or you can search Lewis theory, then you will get so many things. Even in A level, these things won't change. Even until A level chemistry, these things won't change. Even under university level. So what I explained here, that what. Therefore, Lewis structure, but there are some actually Lewis theory is not a perfect theory. There are some drawbacks of Lewis theory. Some molecules now, and the other most important, Lewis theory, Lewis structure should contain only, that is one drawback of the previous one also, only the valence electrons, no need the inner electrons. Lewis structure only for what? Only valence electrons are shown. Only valence electrons are represented. Only valence electron. Inner shells are useless. Now, example, you write chlorine 287 chlorine. Okay. This we are writing the short note for the Lewis structure. That's why I told Lewis thing here. Tell answer this Lewis. Now 287. Only these 7 electrons can involve in the bonding. Inner electrons are useless. Therefore, we never represent 2,8. No need, not necessary. If you take say carbon 2,4. So carbon valence electrons only 4. Inner electrons are useless. They cannot form bonds. There are 2 electrons, cannot form bonds, cannot conduct electricity. So how many valence electrons? 4 valence electrons. Therefore, how many bonds? 4 bonds. 4 valence electron means carbon can form maximum 4 bonds. Valence is also equal to the number of bonds formed. Remember, Lewis theory introduced to the new syllabus. It's introduced to your new syllabus. New syllabus means this syllabus started in 2016. Before 2016, any O-level papers, there's nothing called Lewis structures. If there's a question from Lewis structures before 2016, so that is, it's not there. After 2016, only the past papers, oral past papers, you will find the Lewis structures. Since it is introduced to the new syllabus, they can frequently ask this in upcoming papers. Dot and cross diagram was there from 1990s. So that is not new. So what is introduced new out of this bonding thing, 10th lesson, Lewis structures and Lewis dot diagrams. Lewis dot diagrams. Okay. Right. Then let's move on to the next part. Anyone still copying down this? Please raise the hand. So I told Lewis structure contain only valence electrons. You don't ever put inner electrons. Only valence electrons. Huh? What are valence electrons? Electrons in the outermost shell. What are valence electrons? Electrons in the outermost shell. Inner electrons, if you want, you can show, but it's not necessary. But A level and beyond that, if you put the inner electrons, they will deduct marks. But sometimes I have seen like you keep on drawing circles. Otherwise, what happened? Because no point of drawing, because okay, you go for the calcium 2, 8, 8, 2. How many circles you draw here? First one 2 electrons, next one 8 electrons. You have to keep it like this. So it's waste of time, waste of your time and the space in your book, right? Because because configuration, from the configuration you can identify how many electrons are in the inner shell. Only the outermost shell is enough. Okay. But calcium you can't draw the Lewis structure. So calcium form only ionic. Calcium won't form covalent compounds. Calcium you have to go for the ionic, right? Okay. Ionic compound we don't draw the Lewis structures. That is wrong. If a teacher give a question like draw the Lewis structure of sodium chloride, you can be asked 3 marks because Lewis theory, Lewis structure is only for the covalent, not for the ionic. I have seen the questions like that. That's why I tell you. Right. Then let's move on to the next part. I'll erase this. Huh? You have finished. So this at the end paper class anyway, I'll be giving a small short note which is not given in the textbook. So that will be very useful before the O-level exam. You can quickly revise whatever the important areas using this short notes or the flow diagram. That is very useful. No? Otherwise, how can you read about 35 lessons? Then next part. Next part. Let's see what is the next question. Write the formula of the compound with covalent double bond. Covalent double bond, you ask to write the formula. If they ask to write the formula, write the formula. If you ask to write the name of the compound, write the name. Please write for what they ask. The other mistake the students, they lose marks. Not reading the question properly. Not following the instruction. Exam means they test not only recall in the previous memory, not only recalling the previous memory, recalling facts or the abstract data or definitions what we have learned. So in the exam, they test whether you can follow the instructions given, adhering to the instructions given. Some students, they can't follow the instruction. You go to a workplace or even in a labor job, they have to follow the instructions given properly in the catalog or manual or whatever. Otherwise, they get injured and they will face with accidents. No? So that is also a skill in the exam. Remember, exam is not only the answers. If you are not adhering to the instructions given, if you are not following the instruction given in the exam, maybe a practical related question, activity based question, you will lose marks. You have not practiced that. You are not listening to the others, right? So you should be able to respect to the opinions of the others also. That skill you should get from this education, right? Okay. So that's why I don't. And the other one, paying attention to the question word. Paying attention to the question word, right? So if someone asks, what did you eat for the breakfast? You tell, I ate rice and curry for the lunch. Yes, what you have said is correct. You have eaten rice and curry for your lunch. But the person is asking, what did you eat for your breakfast? What you have told is correct, but not relevant to the question. Not relevant to the question. These are the issues in the O-level marking. They know everything. They know the answer, but they have not written that. Sometimes after looking at the oral paper, the markings came. I mean, the after marking, they don't give that back to the candidates. But your school term test papers, teachers will give them. Some teachers give, some teachers won't give. Right? When the teachers give, then you sometimes you are really disappointed. You write half page paragraph the answer, but teacher has put 0 marks, no marks, not even 1 mark. Then you complain. I wrote the answers, but teacher has not given marks. Sometimes you tell your parents also. I wrote all the answers, but she has not given. He has not given marks. So no wonder if you have not if you that is called relevancy. So if it is not relevant to the question asked, you will not get marks. So those things also you have to improve from this paper class, not just to memorize only the answers for these questions, right? Okay, then some people like that. So you tell sometime what happened. I have experienced this. Imagine you have a housemate or someone, so you asking this person, go and buy this stuff from the shop. He will bring something else, some other brand. So that is a what? Not following the instruction given. These issues are there in our day-to-day life also, not only in the exam, right? So that means they have not studied. Maybe you have not done their education. Okay. Write the formula of the. If it is formula, you have to give the formula of the compound with covalent double, not bands, huh? Double bonds. Make it double bonds. Okay. What are the compounds with covalent double bonds? One of the best example, formula for compound with covalent double bonds, O2. O2 covalent double bond. O double dash. Okay. This is what covalent double bonds. Covalent double bonds. Covalent double bond. If you take one more thing, C2H2, C2H4, this is called, I'll give this also additional information. C2H4, there's a double bond, C2H4. Always carbon form for, actually carbon, there are 4 bonds around carbon atom in any molecule. Any molecule around carbon atom, there's a, so here also what? Covalent double bond. Covalent double bond. Covalent double bond between carbon atoms, right? Then if you take, so that is C2H4, C2H4. What is C2H4? Ethene, ethene. O2, you know, ethene. In addition to that, if you take CO2, carbon dioxide also has what? I'll take CO2. CO2 also has what? Covalent double bond. CO2 also has covalent double bond. How to draw CO2? Carbon, double bond oxygen, double bond oxygen. This is how you get CO2. CO2. Right? So here also you have covalent double bond. Understood? Right. Covalent double bond. Please copy down this. These are the possible CO2, carbon, double bond, oxygen. Here also around carbon 4 bonds. Previous one also around carbon 4 bonds. So this is a covalent double bond. Right? Covalent double bond. Covalent double bond. Here also you get covalent double bond. CO2. Right? CO2. Right. Please copy down additional information example also if you want. If there's covalent triple bond, this is the answer you can write. If there's covalent triple bond, then N2. Now, can I tell this O2 as a Lewis structure? Yes, I'll ask the answer. Who can tell me what is the mistake? Okay, I in the exam, a student write this as what? Lewis structure of O2. Lewis structure. This is the Lewis structure of oxygen. What is missing here? He will not get marks for this Lewis structure of O2. What is missing here? Yes, Sumela?
It had not depicted that the non-bonding pairs.
Very good. Lone pairs are not included. That's a problem. So to make it a Lewis structure, you have to put the lone pairs. So how to decide lone pairs? One oxygen atom has 6 valence electron. Out of 6 valence electron, 2 for the bonds. And the other 4 become lone pairs. 2 electrons go on for the bonds. Because there's a double bond. If there's a double bond, one atom has to contribute 2 electrons. To make one bond, one atom contribute 1 electron. To make 2 bonds, one atom contribute 2 electrons. After contributing 2 electrons for the bond formation, the other 4 remaining as what? Lone pairs. In the exam, sometimes they will ask you to draw the Lewis structure of what? O2. Then this is how you should draw it. Out of 6 electrons, each oxygen atom has 6 electrons. Out of 6 electrons, 2 electrons go on for the bond, and the other 4 left as 2 lone pairs. 2 for the bonds, so that is for the double bond, and the other 4 become 2 lone pairs. 4 electrons can become 2 pairs. So, but those 2 pairs act as what pairs? Not bonding pairs, lone pairs, because they are not participated for the bond formation. Lone pairs are also known as non-bonding pairs. That's why I have put pair of dots around each atom. Lone pairs on individual atoms, on isolated atoms. Bonding pair either as using a small dash or as a pair of dots between the atoms. Between the atoms, bonding pair. Don't forget these rules when you are drawing the Lewis structure. Okay, so now I give what? Write down a formula of the compound. Formula of the compound means you don't need to write the structure. If they ask the formula, give the formula. But for your understanding, I explain this in detail. So if you write the formula of the compound O2, that's accepted. If you write C2H4, accepted. Right? If you write CO2, accepted, because they have a double bond. Covalent double bond is there, right, between the atoms. Right. That is the answer for the part 5. Okay, I'll erase this now. Only the formula of the compound. Formula of the compound, this any of this accepted, but most common one in your syllabus O2. Okay, if sometimes in the paper, if there's write down a compound with triple bond, then the best answer is what? Nitrogen. How come nitrogen? 2, 5. So 5 electrons to make it 8. Nitrogen has to share 3 electrons with someone. If nitrogen is going to receive 3 electrons or to share 3 electrons, this electron shared or gain 3 electrons called valency. Valency 3 means 3 bonds. How many bonds formed by nitrogen? 3 bonds. 3 bonds. So one of the best example, if you take N2 gas, there's a triple bond. There's a triple bond. So out of 5 electrons, 3 electrons gone for the bonds. Out of 5 electrons, 3 electrons gone for the one. Why 3? To make it 8. Otherwise, you can ask, can't nitrogen form 5 bonds? No, it's easy to form 3 bonds and achieve the noble gas configuration. So after giving away 3 electrons from each nitrogen atom to make the bonds, then how many electrons left? 2 electrons left as lone pairs. Now some students, those two also, they put this side one, this side one. Don't do it. I told you the rules. In the Lewis structure, you have to write it as in the form of pairs. Right? Pairs. Don't put like one is here and the other one is here. That is completely wrong. Then they are unmarried. All the married people, only the couples. Lewis structure, only couples. No unmarried, no singly occupied electrons. That's very important. So therefore, you have to put a pair here and here you have to put a pair. Understood? Now, if you ask from this nitrogen atom, how many electrons do you have in your valence shell? So this nitrogen atom tell, I have 8 electrons. How come 8 electrons for this atom? He will tell, I have 3 bonding pairs. 3 bonding pairs. That means 6 electrons. So this nitrogen atom, if you ask from this nitrogen atom, how many electrons do you have now? Earlier you had 5. Now how do you how many electrons do you have? So then this nitrogen atom tell what? Bonding pairs. He will tell bonding pairs 3. Okay. Bonding pairs 3 means what? How many electrons? 6 electrons. 6 electrons. 6 electrons. If you ask from this nitrogen atom, and if you ask how many lone pairs or how many non-bonding pairs do you have, this nitrogen atom will 1. That means how many electrons? 2 electrons. So 2 plus 6, 8 electrons. That is called what? Octet. Octet. 8 electrons in the valence shell now. Do you understand? Around this nitrogen, there are 8 electrons because 6 electrons in the middle belonging to both the atoms. If you ask from this nitrogen, how many? What? He will tell what? 6 electrons for the bonds and 2 electrons from the lone pair. Then I also have 8. This guy also tell I will have 8. This guy also will tell I will have 8. Then both are satisfied. Both has reached octet. Octa means 8. Octet. 8 electrons. So therefore both are satisfied. Before forming the triple bond, if you take only nitrogen atom, single one, like before both the bond formation, what if you have from this nitrogen, how many electrons do you have? He will tell what? Only 5. Only 5. Less than 8. Less than 8. Therefore, I am unstable. Since atom is unstable, it becomes a molecule. So why atoms and molecules? Which one is more stable? Molecule is more stable than the atom. If atom is more stable than the molecule, atom will never form bonds. Remember in the periodic table, you write nitrogen N, but in the nature it's N2, or nitrogen is present in protein. They will get plugged into the other elements or atoms to make it octet, to fill the outermost shell. Therefore, they are unstable. Atoms are unstable. Oxygen in the periodic table is O, but you breathe O2 because oxygen atom unstable because outermost shell is not completed, not full. It has not achieved noble gas configuration. To achieve the noble gas configuration, to achieve octet, to fill the outermost shell, they will form bonds. So therefore, this chemical bonding is very, very important. You can't understand the rest of your chemistry without this part. Right? Therefore, it's very important. Okay, I explained this in bit in detail because one objective of the paper class, not just to give the answers. So I can do hundreds of papers. I will give the paper and giving the answers. Only I will improve, not the students. Therefore, to improve you at the end of the class, you should close your eyes and think how many new things. What are the short methods? Did I refresh my memory? So that's what you have to get. Not the answers you have copied out. Right? Not the content, not the number of pages you have written. Things will be in the writing book, but not in your head. Whatever left in your head is important for the exam. Even if you have hundreds of notes, that is not useful for the exam unless you absorb that and understand. Right? Okay. Then part B. Part B from chemical calculation. This is also one of the hardest part for the students. Chapter 7, Unit 7 in chemistry, chemical calculation, quantification of elements and compounds. Okay. They have given here in common measuring unit of quantification of atoms and element. What is the name of this unit? Name the element that should be used as the above measuring unit. Describe the mass of magnesium relative to the above unit. What is this unit called? To measure the mass of all the other atoms, we use a standard unit. Yes, I'll ask the answer from Ayad. Yes, Ayad.
Is it the Avogadro's constant?
Avogadro constant. Okay. Any other alternative answer, Nisula?
Atomic mass unit.
Okay. Correct answer is, yeah. Asujivani, any other answer? Pulsara?
Atomic mass unit.
Yeah. Atomic mass unit. Correct answer is not Avogadro constant. Ayad. For the measuring unit is Avogadro. It's a unit, right? Avogadro constant is not a unit. Okay, please write. Don't mix up this. Avogadro's constant is not a unit. It is a number, right? So, but atomic mass unit has a value as well as it is a measuring unit. So, part 1, the answer will be atomic mass unit. Atomic mass unit. Sometimes we call it AMU. AMU. The next one, name the element that should be used as above measuring unit. Okay, what is the element used for this for making this unit? Who can tell me what is the element selected for to compare the mass of all the other atoms? What is the standard element used? I'll ask the answer from Nilakshi.
Carbon.
Carbon C12 isotope.
Very good. See, yeah, element is carbon. Element is carbon, but if they ask the atom, then carbon element, or you can write C. But if they ask carbon element has various isotopes, if they ask isotope, then you have write C612. But here they ask only the element. Next one. Define the mass of magnesium relative to the above unit. How to write the answer for the part 3? Part 3 they ask, define the mass of magnesium relative to the above unit. Mass of magnesium is defined what? Mass of magnesium relative to the above unit. So you can write the equation if you want. That is called relative atomic mass. Mass of magnesium relative to the above unit is called relative atomic mass. Okay. Therefore, you can write here mass of magnesium atom equal mass of magnesium atom divided by AMU. Mass of magnesium atom divided by atomic mass unit. AMU. Atomic mass unit. Be careful. Again, I'm telling this. If they ask mass of magnesium express or mass of magnesium, you can write, actually magnesium has a real mass. Actual mass of magnesium is there, but it's an extremely low value. That's why we do, instead of expressing the real mass of magnesium, we use relative mass. Relative mass. Now, example, you take, I'll give one of the best example. You ask from a person, what is the mass of one hair in your head? Right? Assume all the hairs in our head the same size, same weight, but it is very low. When you put a hair on the balance, I don't think you will get a reading, right? Normal balance. So I don't think, right? So like maybe like if you get it will be very electronic balance. Sometimes you might get, but it's a very, very small value. Right? Then you it's very difficult to deal with the mass of the hair. Then you take what? You express that relative to some other person, relative to some other unit, relative to some other particle, right? Relative to some other part. So you take a tiny smaller than that, and you tell mass of hair is 2 times than the mass of say one. I take let's say one cotton thread or something like that. You take a relative one. someone that can be, or else you take the smallest hair in your head and relative to that mass of all the other hairs mentioned. You take the mass of the smallest hair in your head. Relative to that, you take you express the mass of all the other hairs in your head. Right. The longest hair will be what in your head will be the 100 times of the smallest one. Second longest hair will be 98 times. Then you tell what relative mass of the that one is what 100. My longest hair is 100 times of the smallest one. My second longest hair in my head is 90 times of the smallest one. The smallest one will be the what? Standard one, like carbon. So we have selected carbon, but actually carbon also what? Now that also we divide into 12. If you want, you can cut into pieces the smallest hair and make it more small, right? So that's why carbon also is divided by 12. Mass of the carbon atom also divided by 12 to get, that is how the atomic mass unit is formed. Okay. Therefore, again, I'm repeating, any atom has its own real mass, but instead of telling the actual mass or the real mass, we use relative atomic mass, right? To make it easier, to deal easily, to compare easily. Otherwise, if you tell 1 into 10 to the minus 24, 1 into 10 to the minus 70 is very difficult to deal with, right? Okay, that is the reason for introducing this. Next one, part 3, if you want, you can express that in words. Right? Mass of a magnesium atom relative to the atomic mass unit is known as its relative atomic mass. Right? Okay. Magnesium atom mass relative to the atomic mass unit. That is the definition. Next one, calculate the relative molecular mass of H2SO4. RAM is given. So this is very easy. What is H2SO4? Sulfuric acid. Okay, if you don't know the name of H2SO4, right, that is battery acid. Battery acid. Car battery contain this acid, H2SO4. Sulfuric acid. Now this also actually there are two words. Sulfuric, some books they write SULFURIC, sulfuric. But mostly I think your textbook they have got SULPH, sulfuric. So this is the internationally accepted one. This also, both these accepted in local science papers. So the sulfuric acid, they have given within bracket hydrogen 1. So you can write 1 into 2, 2 plus sulfur is 32 plus oxygen 16 times 4. 16 times 4. Okay, please raise the hand those who got the final answer for this. Herath, what is the final answer for this? Anup, Sujivani?
98 grams.
98 grams, 98. Any other alternative answer? Mishal, Dasuni?
90 grams.
98.
Yeah, so it's very good. 98. 2 plus 32 plus 16 times 4 will be 64. Then the total you will get here 98. Total you will get here 98. Okay, 98. But don't put grams here. If it is relative one, no units. If the relative word is there, relative means no units. Relative means no units. Very, very important. Relative atomic mass or relative molecular mass or relative formula mass, no units. No units. But if they tell molar mass, then it has units. Both the same method. Now, if you write relative, okay, let's say like this. If you write here relative molecular mass of H2SO4, what? Answer is just 98. Answer is just 98. 98. But if you write relative, sorry, molar mass, the same answer. Molar mass will be 98 grams per mole. 98 grams per mole. 98 grams per mole. This is the difference between relative word is there, definitely no units. Without relative word, if they tell mass or molar mass, then you have to write the unit. So molar mass means mass of 1 mole. And one more thing. This one, if you want, you can copy down this in your short notebook. Some compounds, they don't exist as a molecule. Okay, I'll give one example. H2O is a molecule. H2O is a molecule. Therefore, we can use relative molecular mass because it's a molecular mass of H2O. Then you will get the answer 18. But, okay, that is the first point. You can copy down this in a short notebook. But you can write, but NaCl is not a molecule. NaCl is not a molecule. Not a molecule. Therefore, they have introduced now, the other countries, they don't, now in Sri Lanka, I think they don't deduct marks for this, but sometimes if they make the marking very strict, this can happen. Sodium chloride is not a molecule. Why? Molecule consists of only atoms. If you want to write here, molecule has atom. Molecule has atoms, no ions. Has atoms, no ions. No ions in molecule. No ions. No ions. NaCl is not a molecule. NaCl is not a molecule. Therefore, that means what? No atoms. No atoms in NaCl. No atoms in NaCl. Only ions. Only ions. Positive ions, Na plus, negative ions, Cl minus. Only ions. Therefore, can I use relative molecular mass of NaCl is completely wrong. Therefore, relative, or you can write Mr. M is molecular mass, R for relative. If someone is telling what is the relative molecular mass of NaCl, that is a bit confusing. Molecular, because it's not a molecule. So then they use the word relative what mass? Relative formula mass. Relative formula mass. Then you can tell the answer. Understood? That is the difference. What is the difference between what is the difference? Formula mass and molecular mass. Molecular mass is used for the covalent compound. Formula mass can be used for both covalent compounds as well as ionic compound. Therefore, some international books, they use the term formula mass instead of molecular mass. But in your textbook also both is given. Formula mass also they have given in your textbook. But the students as well as teachers, they don't know the difference between these two. What is the molecular mass? What is the formula mass? Formula, any compound has a formula. Any compound, chemical compound has a formula. Then you can tell the formula mass for both covalent and ionic compound. But relative molecular mass only for the covalent. So you can calculate both. Sodium chloride, you get 58.5. 58.5. Since it is relative, no units. Relative means no units. Relative means no units. Right? So if someone is telling what is the relative molecular mass of sodium chloride, that question is wrong, right? If someone asks what is the relative molecular mass of calcium carbonate, that is wrong. Why? Calcium carbonate is not a molecule. It is an ionic lattice. Any ionic compound is an ionic lattice. These are the areas where the teachers as well as students do mistakes even in the exam, right? Even when making the questions, they do mistakes, right? Then next one. Now in this question, okay. Sulfuric acid is covalent to ionic. Is this question correct? Can we use molecular mass for H2SO4? Hands up those who are saying we can use molecular mass, relative molecular mass for H2SO4. In this question, part 4, look at the question. Please raise the hand. Those who are saying this question is correct. We can use molecular mass for H2SO4. That means H2SO4 is a molecule. Please raise the hand. Those who are telling H2SO4 is a molecule. That means you are telling this question is wrong. Part 4. Part 4 is wrong. H2O is not a molecule. Right. Okay. Now that is the problem. First tell me H2SO4 is covalent to ionic. Okay, that is also, first you should, then if it is a covalent compound, then it's a molecule. Covalent compounds are made of molecule, not ions. Only ionic compounds are made of ions. H2SO4 covalent to ionic. Please raise the hand those who are saying H2SO4 is ionic compound. Please raise the hand those who are saying H2SO4 is ionic compound. If you don't know whether it's ionic or covalent, that is the end of chemistry. H2SO4 is ionic compound. It is an ionic lattice. Then battery will contain only powder, no battery acid. Right? H2SO4 is not ionic. It is covalent. H2SO4 is covalent. Are there any metals in it? Hydrogen non-metal, sulfur non-metal, oxygen also non-metal. So it's covalent. No metals in it. H2SO4 is a covalent compound. When you put into water, it separates and will separate into ions. That is something else. But if you take pure compound, it's covalent. It has no ions, only atoms. H2SO4 covalent molecule, because it is made of atoms, sulfur atoms, oxygen atom, because it is made of. These are the problems in your chemistry. Some of the students, they don't know these basic things because it is made of atoms. If it is made of ions, then it's ionic. If it is made of ions, then it's ionic. Ions, then it's ionic. Understood? Then it is ionic. Right. So therefore, that question is correct. No, relative molecular mass we can use for H2SO4. So because it's a molecule, right? That is, so these things. So actually making a question is more difficult than answering the question, right? Making a question is more difficult than answering questions, because if the teacher or whoever the examining the oral paper, if they are not making a correct question, what? There's no correct answer. If the question is wrong, then there's no correct answer for that. Then they will have to give free mark. Therefore, my advice, now if you want to really, like the other method of study, after studying any lesson, you can make 10 MCQs. Try to do that. Have you ever tried making not 10 MCQs? After studying any lesson, you try, like, I don't know about the other subject, but science, you are getting MCQs, 40 MCQs, even in the oral paper, you make 5 MCQs for that lesson. You will find, I don't know, you will understand how, and you show these 5 MCQs to the teacher and ask from the teacher, are there any problems in these questions? Are these questions are correct? That itself, you will improve a lot, right? Try to do it. Or you can show to someone good in science, even maybe your classmates. So definitely you will improve. If you can make 5 MCQs, after studying the lesson, correct multiple choice questions, good MCQs, 5 MCQs for each lesson. Chemical calculation part, you make 5 MCQs. So making MCQs is more difficult than essay type sometimes, and structured essay, right? Because you can have only one answer and 4 wrong answers. Wrong answers also what? They don't put directly wrong. They put a wrong answer for the weakest student also to make it happy, like to feel, I mean, he will satisfy because he also has an answer, but that answer is wrong. Right? So when put in 4 answers for the MCQs, to satisfy the weakest student also, they put an answer. Well, okay, they think the weakest people will guess this way the answer. That also they will include in the among the 4 answers. So everyone will be enjoying the answers, but only one answer is correct out of 4. Do you understand what I say? Right. That's why you have to read the question carefully and read all 4 answers before you mark the answer, right? Especially MCQs. Right. Then number 5. I told the answer for the number 4, 98. Don't write the unit. Okay. They are got 2 marks. State an element with the, it should be not LAW, that is low, neat. LOWEST, lowest mass in H2SO4. Name an element. Element also the spelling wrong. Element with the lowest mass. Okay. Hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. Out of these 4, these are the 3 elements. Which one has the lowest mass? Hydrogen relative mass is 1. Sulfur relative mass is 32. Oxygen relative mass is 16. Which one has the lowest mass? Hydrogen. Answer for the part 5 will be hydrogen. Hydrogen. Or you can write H. Is that clear? That is very easy. So they have given the RAM within bracket in the previous question. Next part. I'll erase the screen. Part 4 physics. Part 4 physics. Explain the reason for the jackfruit does not fall and down relative to the equilibrium of forces. Okay, how to explain this? Jackfruit hanging on the branch, but it does not fall. Equilibrium of forces. How many forces are acting on this? How many forces are acting on this? There are two forces. So this is actually the equilibrium of two. If you want, you can mark that on the diagram. Mark the forces. So there the jackfruit, there are two forces acting on it. There are two forces acting on it. 10 kilogram. What is the weight acting down? 100 Newton. How to convert mass into weight? W equals mg. Mass 10, g is 10, 10 into 10, 100 Newton. 100 Newton. Right. Now what is the upward force? Tension. Tension on the stroke of net. That is what is the tension on the net? That also 100 Newton. They are equal and opposite. They are equal and opposite. So what is this called? Equilibrium of two forces, right? So how to explain? Explain the reason. There are two forces acting on the jackfruit. Those two forces are equal and opposite in direction and act in the same line. That is how you should explain. Explain means you have to explain. If they ask you to explain, please explain. But don't write more than 1 or 2 sentences. Don't write long paragraph for the explanation, half-page paragraph. Science marking scheme, oral paper, even what? Maximum, even if they ask you to explain, maximum 1 or 2 sentences. Why jackfruit does not fall down relative to the equilibrium of forces? There are two forces acting on the jackfruit and they are at equilibrium because you can mark this, you can label this, and then it's easy to explain, no need to write much. Equal in magnitude, equal in size, opposite in direction. Opposite in direction. And same line of action. Same line. Therefore, they are the resultant will be 0. What is the resultant? The net effect on this jackfruit by the forces will be 0. 100 minus 100, 0. Resultant force 0. Therefore, it is at equilibrium. Equilibrium. Forces are at equilibrium. Two forces at equilibrium. Right? So if you write that using your onwards, you will get full marks. Then next one, I'll erase this. Next part. Part 2. Draw the rough. I have done mark the forces which applied on it. I told you, right? Part 2, the answer I have already told. If you want to quickly draw it again, inside this box you have to write the branch of the jack tree. There's a. Have you ever tasted jackfruit? Waraka Vela? Huh? Are there students in Colombo, those who have never tasted Waraka and Vela? Waraka and Vela means ripe jack. There are two types of jackfruit. Please raise the hand those who have tasted both jackfruit, Waraka and Vela. In single we call it Waraka and Vela. Vela, Saha Waraka. Those who have tasted both. Some jack trees you get only jackfruit, Waraka only. Some the jack trees you get only the Vela. Those who have eaten both these Waraka, Vela, both. Right, there are around 30 students. There are other students, those who have never tasted Waraka, Vela. In vain. Okay, so you have to taste because it's very healthy, anti-cancerous. Waraka and Vela very healthy. Why? No one is putting the chemicals to this leeks, right? Cabbage. So they are putting full of chemicals to protect from pest. And otherwise, you get black patches and dots and like the problem with carrot, they put a lot of chemicals, right? Leeks, radish, cabbage, a lot of chemicals, especially leeks and cabbage. You have to wash thoroughly before. But jack, I don't think no one is putting chemicals to the jack. Right? It's cheap also. If you have a jack tree, what 2-3 generations can be benefited from this jack tree. jacktree. So therefore, without the permission from Grama Seva in your area, you can't cut down even in your garden the jacktree. Even your own garden if there's a jacktree, you can't cut down that without the permission from government or I mean like mainly the Grama Seva guide. You have to get the permission, and you can't transport. If you take jack tree has jack seeds, very healthy. It's equal to one egg. Jack seed, lot of fibers, carbohydrate, vitamin, a lot of things. Jack seed is very healthy, good for the small ones. Right? But the problem is we are not eating them. We eat only apple and oranges. So the seeds of the fruits very healthy. Seeds of the fruits, nuts, very healthy, antioxidants, anti-cancerous, fibers, minerals, lot of. So now answer is what? You have to mark the two forces. One is W, the other one is T, tension, or R, T for tension. These are the two forces. So you have to mark like this. If you only write here T for tension on the nectar thing, tension, and this is the weight. Weight. W-E-I-G-H-T, weight. Right. So please raise the hand, those who have done this, those who have marked the two forces like this. Okay. Good, very good. Okay, then let's move on to the next part. According to the mass of the jackfruit, what is the name of the force which exerted downwards on the jackfruit? Okay, according to the, who can give me the answer for the part 3A? Siddhani? Insam? Hirak?
Weight.
3A the answer. Yes, what is the answer?
Weight.
Yes, name is weight. Very good. Name is weight. And what is the value of that? That is 10 kilogram. That means 100 Newton. Value is 100 Newton. If you only write the method here, W equals mg. W equals mg. G is 10. 10 kilogram into 10 newtons per kilogram. Then you get 100 Newton. Mass 10 kilogram and G is 10. That's how you convert mass into 10. So remember always 1 kilogram is equal to 10 Newton. If you only can write down this in your short notebook, 1 kilogram is equal to 10 Newton. Or else you can write 1 kilogram equal 10 Newton. Please write it. 1 kilogram is equal to 10. Actually, it's 9.8, but approximately we'll take 10 Newton. And if you take 100 grams, it is equal to 1 Newton. 100 grams is equal to 1 Newton. 100 grams equal 1 Newton. Is that clear? 100 grams is equal to 1 Newton. Okay. Next one. Part 5. Find the resultant force on the jackfruit before it fallen down to the earth. Resultant force. So actually it's 0. What is the resultant force? Part 4, the answer will be 0 Newton. How come? If you take the jackfruit, they are equal in magnitude, opposite in direction. 100 minus 100, it's 0. 10 kilogram is weight 100. Tension also 100. 100 minus 100, resultant force will be 0. Right? Resultant force 0. The next one, write 2 requirements that should be fulfilled to remain the equilibrium of jackfruit. So 2 requirements to remain its equilibrium hanging on the tree. One requirement, the forces must be opposite in direction. Part 5.1, the answer is what? 2 forces opposite in direction. 2 forces acting on the jackfruit must be opposite. 2 forces should be opposite in direction. Should be opposite in direction. And the second requirement, equal in magnitude. Equal in magnitude. Opposite in direction, equal in magnitude. That means 100, 100. If you only can write one more, they are same line of action. Same line of action, equal in magnitude, opposite in direction. So out of those 3, you have to write at least 2 requirements. Next one. Shall I erase this? Anyone still copying down? Anyone still copying down? Right. Sandushi, okay, if you are still copying down, you can raise the hand. Otherwise, you can lower your hand when you're done. Now remember, in the exam, they can ask equilibrium of 2 forces and 3 forces. But all the forces in your syllabus or all syllabus coplanar forces. Whether it's 2 forces or 3 forces or 10 forces or 100 forces or 1000 forces, if the resultant is 0, that means the net effect of all the forces, 0, then the object is at rest or moving with uniform velocity. That is according to the Newton's first law. According to the Newton's first law. Right. Next one. Draw the velocity time graph to illustrate the motion of jackfruit when it is falling down. How to write the answer for this? Okay, I think you can't give the orally, you can't tell the answer for this. Please raise the hand those who have done this velocity time graph. Y-axis velocity, x-axis time. When the jackfruit is falling from rest, it is falling from rest, what happened? Velocity gradually, it undergoes acceleration. When the jackfruit is falling, it undergoes what? Acceleration. It undergoes acceleration. Then you get the graph. Time t like this. Sorry. Like this. So the graph begins from 0. Graph begins from 0. Graph begins from 0. 0. So this is a velocity time graph. What is this called? Uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration. Why uniform acceleration? Because gravitational acceleration we can't change. That is 10 ms minus 2. Please write it. Because when something falls down, it falls down under gravity. We call it free fall. Imagine coconut falls from a tree. No one is pulling the coconuts, no one is pushing the coconuts. So under the influence of gravity, this coconut is falling down. So therefore, we call it free fall. What is the other single term used for this? Free fall. So when it's falling down, velocity increases. We call it uniform acceleration. Velocity increased by 10. 0 become 10, 10 become 20, 20 become 30, like that. Velocity increased by the same value. That is why we call it uniform acceleration. Okay, that is the answer. Please raise the hand those who have got this graph, not the jackfruit. Any other fruit, when it's falling down vertically, maybe a coconut or jackfruit or any nut in the tree, or even maybe monkey or any other animal. So when they fall down, velocity increases. Okay, so but upwards, opposite. Upwards, deceleration. If you are throwing an object upwards, then the graph will be opposite, right? If you want to try like that, you take this coconut or the jackfruit and send this back to the tree, then the answer will be what? Deceleration, like this. Deceleration. We call it uniform deceleration. So in the exam, they can ask what? When an stone is thrown upwards until it reach the maximum height, not until it reach ground, until it reach maximum height. Initially, you supply the velocity 40. After say 3 seconds, velocity becomes 0. That is the maximum height. At maximum height, velocity is 0. If you are throwing up, this is down. This is when falling down, when moving up. Up, deceleration. Down, acceleration. Right. So this one, the graph is the first answer. First answer. Right. Then next part. Remember, motion graph, very important. Velocity time graph or displacement time graph, definitely you are getting a question in the oral paper. Otherwise, that will not be a oral paper, science paper. But either from velocity time graph or displacement time graph, you are definitely getting a question in the oral science paper. If they don't ask essay or structured essay type paper, then at least they will ask MCQ from this graph. Graphical representation important. Mostly the students, they study velocity time graph, but last year oral paper, they have given displacement time graph also, 2019 and 20. Right. Next one. What is the conclusion you can arrive with the shape of the graph? So what is the conclusion? Jackfruit travels with uniform acceleration. What is the answer for the part B? Part B, after drawing the graph, they ask, it travels with uniform. The jackfruit is moving, or it moves down with uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration. Conclusion is uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration. Jackfruit is moving down with uniform acceleration. Okay. Then next one is very, very important. You have to do a calculation. We know the mass of the jackfruit. We know the mass of the jackfruit 10 kilogram. 10 kilogram. Have a look at here. Now again, you have to move back to the top. 10 kilogram mass one at the moment it dispatch. Take 2 seconds to fall down the R. Time taken to, okay. Remember some of the essays and instructed essays. Now this is the last part in the question. Some students think, oh, they haven't given any data. How can I find the height? Graph also no data. Then they are wondering why now how they have done a mistake when making the question. I should get free mark. Please remember, if it is under the same question, you should go back to the beginning and check whether they have given any data related for the last one. Data given at the beginning, but the question is the last part, right? So 10 kilogram take how many seconds to fall down? 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. 10 kilogram, 2 seconds taken. How to find the height? Be honest. Please raise the hand those who have done the calculation and got the answer for this. Calculate the height of the jackfruit. Any volunteers? Part 7A. It's a very good question. Plus hard. Part 7A. Those who have done, please raise and what is the answer you got? I'll ask the answer from Sumaila. What is the answer you got?
20 meters.
20 meters. Nisula, what is the answer you got?
40 meters.
40 meters. Anup, what is the answer you got? Sujivani?
40 meters.
40 meters. Hairat?
20 meters.
Ayat?
20 meters.
20 meters. Some of you told 20 meters, some of you told 40 meters. Let's see. Actually, you can find the height from what? Velocity time graph. If any velocity time graph, area of the graph is equal to the distance traveled. Velocity time graph, area of the graph. Area of this graph, if you calculate, then you get the total area of the graph. Area of the triangle. Area of graph. Area of graph means area of the triangle. Now, time taken 3 seconds. Time taken 3 seconds. Problem is velocity. If we know this velocity value, then we can easily find this. We can find the area of the graph. How to find the velocity? This is how you find the velocity. V equals U plus AT. Okay, so or else you can write this equation. Velocity equal U plus AT. So this equation you can use to calculate the final velocity. Or else you can get this way also. Initial velocity is 0. Acceleration is 10. Time taken 3 seconds. Then you get 30. 30 meters per second. This is the final velocity. How many seconds taken? 2 seconds. Sorry. It's 2 seconds. Not 3 seconds. Sorry about that. 2 seconds. Then the velocity will be 20. This is one method. Then you can mark your velocity 20. Velocity 20. Then you can find the area of the graph. Half into, so I'll write displacement equal half into base into height. Base is 2, height is 20. Half into 2 into 20. The final answer will be what? How many meters? 20 meters, not 40, no? 20 meters. Half into 2 is 20 meters. Please raise the hand those who got the answer, the height 20 meters. Those who got the height 20 meters. Right, very good. There are nearly 10, 15 students. About 10 students, okay. What is the height of the jackfruit? 20 meters, not 40, okay. If you want, you can do this way also. Wait. Sometimes you might be wondering why did I put a equals. What is the equation for the acceleration equal what? Please copy down this also, everyone. You know the acceleration equal change in velocity over time taken. Change in velocity over time taken. So you can rearrange this equation. What? Take t into the other side. Then you take at equal v minus u. Then take minus u into the other side. Then you get what? V equals at plus u. That's what I wrote here. V equals u plus at. So this is what I use. Velocity I don't know. Initial velocity, jackfruit is hanging on the tree. Initial velocity is 0. What is acceleration? 10. Gravitational acceleration 10. Time taken 2. Then you get here 20 plus 0. What? 20. Final velocity 20. This equation, nothing new. This equation I rearrange. I make velocity subject because velocity is the unknown one. I took everything else to the other side. Please copy down this method. What is acceleration? Change in velocity over time taken. Acceleration equal, you had done this equation, everyone should know. That is given in your syllabus. Final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time taken. But I want to find the final velocity, I'll make v in this side and take everything else to the other side. Then you get v equals u plus at. If you can copy down this, how to find the final velocity from the initial velocity and time? U plus at. So you can derive this equation from this one. That's what I have shown here. Or else you can directly apply the values to this equation, no problem. You can directly apply the values to this. Is acceleration 10, gravitational acceleration we can't change. Final velocity we don't know. Initial velocity 0. Before it falls down, the initial velocity is 0. And time taken 2 seconds. Time taken 2 seconds. So you can easily get the answer now. Take 2 into the other side, it becomes 20. 20 equals v minus 0. So v minus 0 is v. V minus 0 is v. V equals 20. That's very easy. That is how you get the final velocity 20. That means when it reached down, it reached the ground with this much of velocity. As it hits the ground, velocity will be 20. Velocity will be 20. Now remember, if time taken more, what happened? Then what happened? Velocity will increase. That means it is falling from greater height. Then it will take more time. If it is falling from a greater height, it will take more time. More time is what? Velocity increase as it hits the ground. If that is fallen to your head, then you get more pain, right? If it is from a greater height. So that's a good question. From the graph, you can calculate the height of the jack tree, but to find the height, you need the area of the graph. To find the area of the graph, you need the velocity. To find the velocity, you need this equation. Final velocity. Velocity means final velocity. And they have not given at the beginning the jackfruit, the velocity is 0. That is common sense. Before it falls down, it is in the tree. It is not moving here and there. It is at rest. Right. Next part. I'll erase this. Are you familiar with this? What is more comfortable to your eyes? This green screen? No, the other days I note on the PDF. Please raise the hand those who are comfortable with the green screen, then writing on the PDF annotation or the editing on the PDF the answers. Those who find more convenient or more comfortable to the eyes, the green screen the answers, then writing directly on the PDF. 20 students. You are more comfortable with the writing. Okay, green screen answer. Right. Are there like those who prefer the, okay, please raise the hand those who prefer directly writing the answers on the PDF on the blanks. Again, there are around same, okay, 50-50, okay, right. I'll try to manage both, okay. I think majority prefer, I think green screen, no, okay, because it's good to your eyes, right. And I had to make the PDF, I think, it's under different background color, right, anyway. But anyway, this is I'm using a different device today because due to some technical issue in the previous the other device. Okay, next one. Find the velocity of the jackfruit at okay, that is we have done. Actually, they have part B. We need the answer before part A. Right? So that we have done now. Find the velocity. Part B I have done, right? A equals V minus U over T. Find the final velocity. So here A equals, remember gravitational acceleration is 10. So we use the term G is the symbol, but here also it's 10. And final initial velocity is 0. Time is 2 seconds. Final velocity we don't know. We don't know. So that's then you can, we have done it, right? I have done it, but those who have not copied down, quickly write it. Apply the values to this. 10 equal V minus 0 divided by 2. Then you get the final answer, V equal 20 meters per second. V equal 20 meters per second. The answer will be 20 ms minus 1. 20 ms minus 1. Okay. Now, most probably, I think by next month for the grade 10s, not sure this month. Mostly end of this month, most of the schools with number of students less than 500, they'll start for the grade 5, grade 11, and A level this year, A level batch. But grade 10s, I don't think they'll start in the first round unless you are in a school with less than 200 students. And by next month, sometimes depend on the situation. Anyway, it's on the hand of the COVID-19 virus, whether you are going to the school or not depends on. If they start the schools, then I think that is next month is November, right? So this year only one more month, December. Then grade 10 is gone. I don't think the teachers having the time to complete this grade 10 work. But anyway, the government schools, the teachers are still on strike, and the principals. That problem also there. But anyway, the main target of the government now to keep the exam first, the priority for them. Grade 11, grade 13, and grade 5 scholarship exam students. Okay. Next part. Essay type question. So this is not a hard one. We have finished the classification lesson. Part 1, they have given Pisces, amphibians, reptilia, aves, and mammalia. What feature of organism can be used to introduce it as vertebrate? What feature? Okay, who can give me the answer for the part 1? How do you name them as vertebrates based on which feature or the characteristics? Any volunteers? Part 1, 5, 1 the answer. Presence of what? Ayad?
Presence of a backbone.
Presence of vertebral column.
Presence of a backbone.
Presence of vertebral column.
Presence of vertebral column.
Very good. Yeah, backbone also accepted, but it's better, right? Vertebral column. Presence of vertebral column. Vertebral column. Vertebral column. Backbone. Right. Next one. Number 2. Classify given organisms into 2 groups as warm-blooded and cold-blooded. So 2 groups. Warm-blooded, you have to give the list separately, and cold-blooded, you have to give the list separately. Warm-blooded and cold-blooded. Actually, out of the 5 groups of vertebrates, 5 classes of vertebrates who are warm-blooded, homeothermic and poikilothermic. Okay, tell me first who are warm-blooded. First, tell me the warm-blooded one. Yes, I'll ask the answer from Sujivani, but who are warm-blooded out of this?
And mammalia.
Yes, I'll ask the answer from Sumail also. Warm-blooded ones?
Aves and mammalia.
Very good. Aves and mammalia. Right, very good. Excellent. Please copy down the answers, the others. Aves and mammalia. Next one. Cold-blooded, the rest. So no need to tell, all the others are cold-blooded, right? Pisces, amphibia, and reptilia. Amphibia and reptilia. They are cold-blooded. Next one. Classify number 3, right? Corresponding animal group of vertebrates given below. What is the mean of homeothermic or warm-blooded? We are warm-blooded. Humans are also warm-blooded. Our body temperature is constant. It won't change with the environmental temperature. Write the corresponding group of these vertebrates. Okay, let's see. Part 3, the answer. Frog. Frog comes under what? Okay, I'll write here the answer directly because it's not hard. Part 3, the answer. Frog comes under amphibia. Okay, bat come under. I'll ask the answer bat. Who can tell me the group of the bat? I'll ask the Randir. Akhilesh.
Mammal.
Nuka.
Mammal.
Very good, mammal. Then what about tilapia? Who is tilapia? Tilapia. If you go to like, you know, the freshwater fish, sometimes in single we call it Japan coralie. Oreocom mozambicus, scientific name. Oreocom mozambicus, tilapia. Introduced from Japan, I think, introduced species. Tilapia. Belongs to what? Nisula Sedani? Inuka?
Fish case.
Yes, very good. Fish case. So cartilage fish or bony fish? Fish case or fish, that is bony fish, right? Then next one, lizard. Lizard. Atusa or home lizard. Huna. So that come under very easy. So I'll write directly the answer. Reptilia. Reptile. Reptilia. Reptilia. Right. So that is about the groups to which they belong. So vertebral groups. Next one. Main locomotive method of aves flying. Write 2 adaptations they show for flying. Okay, let's see the answer for the part 4. I'll erase this. Anyone still copying down this? One adaptation you can write streamline body shape. Streamline body shape. Okay. Part 4, write the answer. Birds having part 4, streamline body shape. Then the other one, presence of feathers and light bones. Bones are light in weight. Hollow bones. Bones are light in weight, not heavy. Light in weight. They have streamlined body shape, presence of feathers, forelimbs become feathers, and bones are light in weight. So that those are the adaptations for flying. They're asking only 2, feathers and streamlined body shape, enough, no? That is called anakula head. Even the jets, ships, planes, they have this aerodynamic shape. Aerodynamic shape. Done? Next one, part 6. Part 5. Part 5, the answer. According to the binomial nomenclature, name of the man is Homo sapiens, right? Actually Homo sapiens, they have given it wrong. In the question, Homo sapiens wrong. Okay, so Homo sapiens, they have given in the printed form in italics. And they have given everything without a space. It should be actually Homo sapiens. In printed, it should be in italics like this. Homo, is simple, sapiens like this. In printed, printed form. When printed form is like this, italics. So but this is not the answer they asked. The question is write 2, not conventions or the rules or the conditions. I mean, what are the standards when you write in this name? First letter capital. First letter is capital. Or the generic name begins with English capital letter. And all the other letters in simple. The name begins with, start with English capital letter. English capital letter, and all the other letters in simple. All the other letters. All the others in simple. Next one you can write name should be in italics. When printed, it should be in italics or italics. Only two there. You can write any other, and there are a lot of alternative answers. The name is written in Latinized. The name is Latinized, Latino-Greek language. English letters, but Latin language. And Latinized. Salonica. Instead of Ceylon, we write Salonica. Right? Indica. Brazilians is from Brazil, like that. It's Latinized. Then it consists of two proper nouns, or generic and specific name. Generic name first, then the specific name second, like that. Part 6, write differences between natural classification and artificial classification. So natural classification, a difference. One difference is enough. Natural classification shows evolutionary relationship. Please write down the answer. Natural classification shows evolutionary relationship, but artificial classification does not show evolutionary relationship. So that is how you had what? Again, I'll repeat. Artificial classification does not show the evolutionary relationships. Evolutionary relationships. But natural classification shows evolutionary relationships. In single we call it parinamika bandhuta. Parinamika bandhuta. Example. Chimpanzees. Orangutan. So they are more close to the humans than the other animals. I mean, out of the animals, they are more close to us. Chimpanzees, gibbon, orangutan. Or else bat is more close, evolutionary bat is more close to the mammals than the birds. Something like that. Or dolphin, sea lion in the sea, more close to the humans than the other fish in the sea. Something like that. That is called evolutionary relationships. That is very important. And all the characters, both internal, external, morphological, psychological, I mean physiological, morphological, all the characters are considered as natural classification, but only few externally observed characteristics considered in the artificial classification. That also you can write. Artificial classification, only few externally observed characters, or maybe their habitat, the place they live. All those who are in the sea, fish. All those who are flying, birds. That is according to the Aristotle artificial method. So that is the end of part A. So today we finished the structured design. Part B, I will discuss next day. Part B from again classification part, I'll discuss that next day. And I wanted to complete the others also. I will share. Unit 13 we have finished now, right? We are doing the reproduction lesson in the theory class. Unit 13 I have prepared a separate paper. I will share that also within next week. You can answer that and keep the answers ready. I'll be finishing this and next week, right? Question number, the essay type, only 2 more questions left. 6, 7, yeah, 8. But some of the questions in the essay type you can't do yet, small part, so the rest you can do. Right? Okay, then shall we stop for today? It's almost 25, so this one. Question number 7, part B, we can 6-5B. You can figure write that. No, yeah, it's not hard. We can quickly give the answers. Part kingdom algae. Part B. Name the kingdom which algae belongs. So tell me who can tell me the answer for the this B1A kingdom of algae. Algae belongs to which kingdom? Vimansa, what is the kingdom of algae? We have few minutes more.
Kingdom Protista.
Very good. Kingdom Protista. So B1A, right, everyone? Kingdom Protista. We'll quickly complete this and stop. Kingdom. If you have another class, you can leave. I'll send the record. You can request the recording. Kingdom Protista. But my advice, don't. Some is answer. If I ask, is giving the recording. Therefore, today I will not participate. No. If you do it online, you will engage with 2 hours this. Otherwise, those who are requesting the recording, I think it will not be 100% successful, or it's not 100% effective. In a row, you don't watch 2 hours completely, and from time to time you get disturbed in here. So therefore, sometimes you will forget it. So because the recording lasts maximum 3-4 days. After that, then you forget it and you will not finish that. Then so some parts missing, right? Okay. Kingdom Protista will be the answer. Next answer. Part 2, part B. Right, another organism which belongs to the kingdom other than algae. 1A kingdom protista. What is the other group belong to this kingdom? Who can give me the answer? I'll ask the answer from Nisula, Herath, Randir.
Plasmodium, which is the protozoa.
Yeah, name another organism which belong to this kingdom. Yes, they're asking the name of the organism. Very good. Yeah, Plasmodium. You can write any of this. Plasmodium, that is a protozoa. Don't write the word protozoa. They're asking name another organism. Protozoa is a group name, so we'll write the name of the amoeba or paramecium, euglena. Any of this you can write. Euglena, Plasmodium, amoeba, paramecium. Then part 2A, what is the compound that contributes to build up the cell wall of fungi? Who can tell me the answer for 2A? Cell wall of fungi is made of what? 2A, it's chitin. 2A, the answer is chitin. 2B, explain briefly the effect of fungi to the equilibrium of environment. Act as decomposers. Decompose waste matters. Act as decomposers. Decompose waste matter. Waste organic matter. Fungi, environmentally very important. Why? They decompose organic waste. Otherwise, the dead bodies will remain as it is forever, right? In the nature. Fungi, how it helpful for the equilibrium of the environment? By decomposing waste matter. What is the name of the fungi which is used in bakery product? What is the fungus used in the bakery industry? Part 2C. Part 2C, the answer will be yeast. Scientific name Saccharomyces cerevisiae, but you can just write yeast. Next one, part 3A. Part 3A. Name the kingdom which domain eukarya consists multicellular organisms have the ability to photosynthesize. Multicellular organisms which can have plants. Plants, multicellular, domain eukarya, can photosynthesize. Given below, non-flowering plants belong to the kingdom, above kingdom. Kingdom, plantain. They are asking classify above plants into categories as non-flowering and flowering. Okay. Part B, flowering and non-flowering. Flowering will be, who are flowering out of this? Specify the above plants to categorize as non-flowering non-flowering seed plants, non-flowering seed plants, and non-flowering seedless. Non-flowering seed. Anyway, all are non-flowering seed plants and non-flowering seedless. Non-flowering seedless. Non-flowering seed plants will be what? Cycas and Pinus. Non-flowering seedless will be Pogonatum and Selaginella. Non-flowering seedless, Pogonatum and Selaginella. Next one, write two features of non-flowering seedless. Non-flowering seedless. What are the non-flowering seedless? Pogonatum, Selaginella. Two features. So one feature you can write, they don't bear fruits, seeds, or flowers. No fruits, no seeds, no flowers. They are limited to shady, moist environment. They are limited to shady, moist environment. They are limited to shady, moist environment. And they don't possess any flowers, fruits, or seeds. Plant body is like a thallus. The last one is very easy. Difference between monocot and dicot. So you can write so many differences between monocot and dicot, right? So I have given that in the textbook also. There are monocot and dicot, lot of differences. Monocot and dicot, lot of differences you can write about the roots. Root system you can write difference, leaves you can write difference, flowers you can write difference, the stem you can write differences. So root system what? Fibrous taproot, right? Then leaves you can write parallel venation, reticulate venation, the dicot leaves. Then you can write the trunk, monocot unbranch, branch. Dicot branch. In addition, you can write monocot. If you take the flowers, flower petals, trimerous flowers. Trimerous flowers. This one you can write tetramerous or pentamerous flowers. Pentamerous flowers. That means flower parts of the petals 5 or multiples of 5 or 4. In addition, you can write even seed. Why it is called monocot? Seed has only one cotyledon. Dicot, the seed has 2 cotyledon. 2 cotyledon means 2 young leaves. Right? There are some other differences. Cambium, monocot cambium absent, dicot cambium present. Monocot plant is even diameter, right? The stem has even diameter. But dicot, the base is broader than the top. Base is jack tree, the base is broad and top is thin. But coconut, arecanut, palmyra, even diameter of the stem, right? Cylindrical stem. Okay, so that is the end of this question. Okay, I finished this question also, the answers. Question number 5 also essay type. Then we have to do question number 6 from chemistry next week, right? Okay, this is almost 7:34. We'll stop for today. Have a nice day and God bless you and stay safe. Until next week.